All rise. Hear ye, hear ye, hear ye. The Indiana Tax Court is now in session. Please be seated.
After 24 and a half years, I don't think we've ever had this many people attend a session of the Indiana Tax Court. Good morning and welcome to all of you, and thank you for being here today. This is a very historic event, which I'll comment about in just a minute. And while all of you are distinguished guests, we do have several people here who are, as an animal, far more distinguished than others. First, and most notably, we're honored to have our governor, Honorable Mitchell Daniels, with us today. Representing Lieutenant Governor Becky Skillman is Virgil Madden. Indiana Solicitor General Tom Fisher, with whom I'm acquainted. Representing Treasurer Richard Moordock, Jim Holden. The Indiana Judicial Nominating Commission, Adrian Meering. Executive Director of this Indiana State Bar Association, Tom Piers. Executive Director of the Indiana Continuing Legal Education Forum, Tom Van Kamicki. Judge of the U.S. Bankruptcy Court, Jim Cochise, Honorable Jim Cochise, and the Honorable Karen Love, Judge of the Hendricks Superior Court, one of the finalists for the tax court. Welcome to all of you, and thank you for being here. We're also honored to have members of the Indiana Supreme Court and members of the Court of Appeals, and I will introduce Chief Justice Shepard and Judge Robb in just a moment. As I've just mentioned, this is an historic event, and for me, I have the high honor of presiding over a proceeding in which so many distinguished people are present, and in the presence of the Chief Justice of our state and the Chief Judge of the Court of Appeals, and as a senior judge, no less. This is historic in that it's the first time in 25 years that a new judge of the tax court has been installed. This is the first time in such a grand fashion. Judicial installations have certainly become more grand and significant over the past 25 years, as they should. But if anyone is interested, I do have a videotape of my installation in Governor Orr's office in 1986. In addition, it's historic in that the first woman judge of the tax court is assuming the bench. It's historic in that, as with John Roberts and William Rehnquist, Judge Wentworth once clerked for the court, the bench of which he is about to assume. To begin today's proceedings, I will call upon Judge-designate Wentworth's nieces, Emma and Elizabeth Poole, to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. To stand.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Ms. Poole. And I would invite Chief Justice Shepard to offer remarks. Chief Justice Shepard.
Thank you, Judge, and thank you for mentioning my colleagues on the Judicial Nominating Commission who work so hard in helping bring us along to this day. It was in some ways an unusual task. The tax court is designed for specialization, designed as a place of particular expertise. That is its strength. It is at the core of the idea of having a tax court, but it also represented for the people who play the nominating commission role something of a puzzle. The puzzle was whether the usual signposts and measures by which we assess the caliber of general jurisdiction court applicants would apply to this instance. And through the initial round of interviews, I found this something of a worry, uncertain about whether the regular ways, the more ordinary ways of figuring out who were the strongest players was actually going to work somehow. I remember the time when I changed my mind about that, and I'll call it, for lack of a better term, the Wentworth moment. It happened almost by accident. My co-commission member, Christine Keck of Evansville, said to applicant Wentworth, "Are there things that are sort of on the horizon at the Indiana tax court that you are especially looking forward to?" It was a straightforward and innocent enough question. It evoked a remarkable response. "Oh, well, yes," said Martha Wentworth with a great smile. "Well, there's the case of Hamilton County Pittiboa versus Oaken Bucket Partners," she said. And then named, which we have subsequently decided, and then named 2 or 3 others. She said people are waiting to find those answers so they can advise their clients and know how these statutes are going to get applied. Her command of the field and her exuberance for the topic gave us confidence that we would, in the end, have 3 superb nominees, and that this exercise would lead to a promising conclusion. It bears repeating how important the tax court is to our state's future. Fair and thoughtful and energetic approaches to the question of taxation is at the center of Indiana's economic opportunity. It is far too facile to focus on what the tax court does as specialized or technical. When it comes to investment climate or employment or general prosperity, there is no more important place in Indiana's court system than the tax court. And I have every reason, and I think we all should have special reason, for confidence that Martha Wentworth will exercise her responsibilities in ways that help build a stronger Indiana. Those of us in the appellate courts look forward to being her comrades in that cause and in the general task of building a better court system for the people of our state. We welcome you, and we look forward to a grand time together in the future. Congratulations.
Now call upon the Honorable Margret Robb, Chief Judge of the Indiana Court of Appeals, for some remarks. Judge Robb?
Thank you. I want to thank you for inviting me to say a few words, and on behalf of my colleagues, we welcome you to the judiciary. It's been a wonderful 12 years and counting for me, as I know it will be for you. It's been a pleasure to look at the changing landscape of the practicing bar and the judiciary. But for women, it has been the result of mentoring, support, and encouragement, not just from the women who climbed the ladder of success before us, but our supportive male colleagues and friends. Several years ago, Chief Justice Shepard had his, what I like to call, his idea du jour, to have a new book written about the justices of the Supreme Court. not just where they lived and went to school, but something personal, what made them the men, excuse me, Myra, they were. I was given my homework assignment to research an essay on Leonard Hackney, and I thought was, gee, I hope that name doesn't tell me what I'm going to find. Well, it did not. It was not the rest of the story. Here was a man with a formal fifth-grade education who wrote so eloquently an opinion that not only changed Indiana, but perhaps the nation. I couldn't find any hint of what made him the person he was or what led him to these thoughts. I'd like to think it was because he had a daughter. When he wrote In Re Leach in 1893, that decision held that Antoinette Dakin Leach was entitled to be admitted to the bar and to practice law, even though she was not a voter. She had the other credentials. She was 21, she was of good moral character, and he found that she had shown she had sufficient knowledge of the law, and held that the Indiana Constitution did not bar the admission of women to the practice of law. Her admission to the bar was obviously moved by a male and seconded by 4 other male members of the Sullivan County Bar, who in fact started this whole thing. And incidentally, we believe her brief to the Supreme Court was the first typewritten brief that the Supreme Court had ever received. We've gone from that day to this, and who knows where the next 130 years will take us, not only as a milestone that commemorates women's achievements, but the achievements of all who value excellence and fairness and the promise of the law to treat all people equally. Congratulations.
That was wonderful.
Thank you, Judge Robb. I now invite Dr. Katharine Wentworth, Judge-designate Wentworth's daughter, to make a few remarks on behalf of the family. Dr. Wentworth.
Good morning. First of all, on behalf of myself and my sister, Amy Wentworth Bueno, who's unable to be here today, I'd like to thank you all for sharing in this very special occasion for my mom. Balancing a demanding career as an attorney and 2 even more demanding daughters at home could not have been easy for her. The late nights at the office meant that leftovers and microwavable meals featured pretty prominently on the weekly dinner menu. And we were generally at least 20 minutes late for all evening school activities. Her interrogation skills were definitely up to par when dates would come to the door. And I can never, ever, ever win an argument, not even today. However, I still consider myself extremely lucky to be my mother's daughter. Since a young age, we were encouraged to become independent, confident, and successful women. She taught us that anything was possible as long as we would put our hearts, our minds, and our backs into the effort of realizing our dreams. Having been appointed judge of the Indiana Tax Court, my mom is proving herself right, as always, Mom, by achieving her dream for her career today. Every day, she inspires me with her passion for her work. She truly loves tax law, though I don't really understand why. And now she has the chance to go out and inspire many more people with her dedication, her determination, and her selflessness, as well as her love of tax law. Therefore, I'd like to take this opportunity to say, congratulations, Mom. You really deserve this, and I'm very proud of you.
Thank you, Dr. Wentworth. I now call upon William Barrett to present Judge-designate Wentworth. Mr. Barrett.
Thank you, Judge Fisher, Governor Daniels, Chief Justice Shepard, Chief Judge Robb, justices, judges, members of the Judicial Nominating Commission, state elected officials, legislators, distinguished guests, family, and friends. In September 1796, George Washington published what has become known as his farewell address. When it hit the newspapers, it gave rise to great curiosity about who and what would come next. After all, Washington, the hero of the Revolution, the presiding officer of the Constitutional Convention, was the only president the country had ever known. Well, more than 2 centuries on, I think we can say it's turned out all right. On a smaller but no less epochal scale, we're witnessing a similar changing of the guard at the Indiana Tax Court. Judge Fisher was the first judge of that court, and for almost a quarter century, he guided both the development of a new appellate court in our state and the body of law that court applies. And now we're here to install Judge Martha Blood Wentworth, Marty, as his first successor. And I'm very pleased to say this will work out all right, too. Marty and I met in law school, where it soon became clear that she was a person of tremendous focus, the highest integrity, and an easy sense of humor. For example, Marty didn't live within walking distance of the law school, and she was always so intent and focused on being prepared for class that she'd lock her keys in the car. Now, most people would stop admitting that sort of thing after the second or third or fourth time and might at least plead that they were out of gas for being late. But she admitted the truth of it year in, year out, and laughed about it every time. Prior to law school, Marty owned, and today continues to own, a rental and investment property business in Bloomington. She was, to borrow a phrase from our governor, one of the regulated. I've always thought it was this real-world, rubber-meets-the-road business experience that attracted her to tax law in the first place. She's fond of telling the story of how she personally roofed a house when she was 9 months pregnant with Dr. Wentworth. It's easy to see how someone with that sort of zeal would want to know the whys and wherefores of every penny that was going to the regulators. Throughout law school, Marty's growing fondness for tax and her yen for preparation served her well. In her final year, she took accounting for lawyers from Professor Bill Oliver. She was the only woman in the class, and Professor Oliver, a great gentleman, as many here know, subscribed to the idea of ladies first, which meant in that case that she got the first question every class session. Given the aversion that most lawyers seem to have towards accounting, I've often wondered if she got the first question because she was the only student in the class, but she assures me that's not the case. And then in 1990 came the event from which we can draw a bright and clear arc to today's proceedings. Marty was hired as a law clerk by Judge Fisher at the Indiana Tax Court. It was, quite simply, a transformative event. Prior to that clerkship, she'd always envisioned herself becoming a federal tax practitioner. But the fascinating jurisdiction of the tax court and the collegiality of the work in Judge Fisher's chambers inspired in her a true passion for the world of state taxation. Marty learned the then 3, now 4 volumes of Title VI, inside and out, and had the opportunity to observe and learn from our state's best tax litigators as they brought their cases before the court. On a personal note, she and Judge Fisher also developed an abiding sense of respect and friendship that has seen them through more than 2 decades and that now, happily, brings them back together as colleagues. It's a truism, and a justified one, that an appellate clerkship refines a new lawyer's research, writing, and analytical skills. In this case, it also refined the new lawyer's career goals. By the time she left Judge Fisher's chambers in 1992, Marty knew she wanted to do as much state tax work as possible, and that led her to the Indianapolis law firm of Hall, Render, Killian, Heath, and Lyman. For the next 6 years, as she became skilled in business law, not-for-profit law, and general civil litigation, she never missed an opportunity to expand her expertise in property tax, sales tax, income tax, excise tax, franchise tax, and whatever other state taxes there are that none of the rest of us can remember. It was also during this time that Marty first became a real leader within the taxation section of the Indiana State Bar Association, editing the section's quarterly publication, inaugurating the annual tax reception for state and federal tax officials, serving as section chair, and also serving as Indiana's delegate to the National Association of State Bar Tax Sections. She has remained an active voice within the taxation section to this day. From her hard work and her commitment to excellence, she reaped a well-earned reputation for strong advocacy, ethical practice, and substantive knowledge. In due course, this led to another transformative event. In 1998, a classmate of ours, Jeff Green, called Marty and asked if she'd like to join him in the multi-state tax practice at Deloitte's office in Indianapolis, one of the country's big four accounting and tax service firms. Now, the timing of their discussions really underscores the dedication of our new tax court judge to her career path. In 1998, she was up for partnership at Hall Render, and she made a conscious decision to forego that opportunity and instead cast her lot entirely with what by then had become self-evident was her true calling, state taxation. Marty spent the next dozen years at Deloitte, where her work fell into two main categories: assisting businesses structure their entities and their transactions to gain the most favorable state tax treatment allowed by the law, and representing those businesses in negotiations with and proceedings before the Indiana Department of Revenue. It was in those 12 years that Marty became the expert in her areas of concentration. It was in those 12 years that she gave so many continuing legal education courses that if our Supreme Court had a cap and trade system for them, she could have retired on the extra hours. And it was in those 12 years that she earned her hallmark reputation for fairness and collegiality. The character that underlies that reputation will now serve this state and its agencies, the bench and bar, and the taxpayers of this state, both corporate and individual, well and truly for many years to come. A couple of weeks ago, Marty's former colleagues at Deloitte held a farewell party in her honor. The testimonials were moving and heartfelt, and I was glad for the chance to hear them and to see how many other people also recognized just how special she really is. When it came time for Marty to speak, she made every person in that organization feel special and feel important. It was really something to watch, and I'm sorry it wasn't recorded. But Governor, Mr. Chief Justice, members of the Nominating Commission, there was one comment she made that I knew immediately I had to report to you. While talking about her time at Deloitte, she said how lucky she was to have worked there because it's a place, and I quote, that gets all the big and sexy tax issues. Ladies and gentlemen, when you're looking for a tax court judge, a person who says that is precisely the person you're looking for. Accordingly, Governor Daniels, I have the great pleasure and honor to present to you for swearing in as the next judge of the Indiana Tax Court, the Honorable Martha Blood Wentworth.
Governor Daniels.
We'll leave it to Brother Barrett to elevate the erudition of this proceeding. I, too, was trying to think of an historical allusion to someone who was the first occupant of an important public post and then held it for so long as to define it and to make people wonder who could follow. I was thinking of Larry King. But you're right, Bill. Washington is much better. Forever now when I think of Judge Fisher. Again, our thanks to the Judicial Nominating Commission for a superb and job, the difficulty of which I'm sure none of us who, even those of us who work just at one remove from their deliberations, can't fully appreciate. And to a great panel of candidates who offered themselves up in that difficult process. Each time we get to one of these openings, one of these vacancies, the thought crosses my mind, or someone will ask, what would you do if you got a panel of people who just didn't measure up? I've stopped worrying about that. This commission, and aided, I know, by the patriotism and the interest in public service of the Bar of Indiana, has served up spectacular candidates time after time, and it happened again in this case. Obviously today we honor Judge Tom Fisher, who does occupy a unique place in our state's history. I, as many of you, knew less than I should have about the tax court and asked a lot of questions while we awaited the arrival of the finalists. And again, the words you would always hope to hear about any court came up just redundantly. Fairness and clarity, promptness, and consistency. Of course, not too hard to be consistent when you only have one judge for 22 years, but still good to hear. And then as we met the finalists and sought to learn more about them, those very same adjectives, over and over, about Martha Wentworth. It is self-evident from any reading of her background, from the presentation Bill gave, that we could not have asked for, we could not have hoped for a candidate so well prepared. To have clerked for this judge who has defined this court, brought it to the stature it is today, then to have practiced in front of it from a variety of posts, to have taught the subject matter, which she'll now be charged with adjudicating, the whole package. And so even amid a strong field of finalists, this was not a difficult choice for me. And it was all cemented by a long and really enjoyable conversation that we had when I did my best to ask the sort of questions that I knew she'd been through many times before. And I would say from that encounter and those that have happened since, the clincher quality came through to me. It's one that is useful in every walk of life I can think of, but especially in the place in which we're gathered now, especially in the sort of job that a judge does, and that is humility. A willingness to think twice, question oneself, never to let the really breathtaking authority that comes with these appointments cloud one's judgment or go to one's head. That is just never going to happen with Martha Wentworth. I know that, even though our acquaintance is only fairly recent. So it is with really special pride. These are always proud moments to be able to participate in, but this one is special for reasons I have mentioned and some you can guess at, to invite here to accept her oath of office, soon-to-be Judge Martha Wentworth. You raise your right hand, and I'll do my best to do the same. I'm going to report this to my doctor as part of my therapy for the day. I, and your name,
I, Martha Blood Wentworth,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Indiana,
and the Constitution of the State of Indiana,
and that I will faithfully and impartially discharge my duties
and I will faithfully and impartially discharge my duties
as Judge of the Indiana Tax Court
as Judge of the Indiana Tax Court
to the best of my skill and ability.
to the best of my skill and ability.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Now it's time to proceed with the robing ceremony, and to do that, I would invite Judge Wentworth's family members, her brother, Howard Blood, Bill Barrett, Dr. Katharine Wentworth, Lisa, Dan, Elizabeth, and Emma Poole, her sister, brother-in-law, and nieces, her cousin, Charles Davis, her mother, Dr. Ruth Barrett, and Scott and Ruth Barrett to proceed with the robing. Now it says here, Mr. Barrett, that you place the robe on Judge Wentworth and then zip it closed. I don't know who's going to zip it up, but that might be risky.
I'll try not to break it.
Do it where the photographer is.
One of the things that I suppose I could be her first test was to ask Judge Wentworth to find her way up here on the bench. But I will direct her. If you come around the end here, Judge Wentworth, I will greet you. And please join us up here.
Excellent. Great secret.
Yeah.
Judge Wentworth.
In that auspicious word used before my time by Justice David, wow. Judge Fisher, Governor Daniels, and the members of the executive branch, Chief Justice Shepard, and justices of the Supreme Court, Chief Judge Robb, and judges of the Court of Appeals, judges of the county court and the federal bench, members of the legislature, members of the Judicial Nominating Commission, former colleagues, friends, and family. I've been pinching myself since December 22nd when I tore down the hall hearing my cell phone. And when I picked it up, it said, "Will you hold, please, for the governor?" Wow, what a day. So glad. I went to Justice David, who was new, after I had my interview with Governor Daniels. I went in to say, well, I'm one of three. I just had my interview. What do I do now? How did you handle this? And he said, just keep your cell phone on you. Great advice. Great advice. I am so pleased that all of you can be here today to share this very special day with me. And each of you have contributed to my great fortune in some way. And although I won't be able to mention everyone here by name, I want to thank you all, the ones who took the time to write letters, give me advice, strategize with me, and make calls on my behalf. I'm eternally grateful for such support. I do have some remarks and introductions, but the first thing I want to do is take this second to notice and to point it out to everyone that there have probably never been so many accountants in this Supreme Court room than there are today. My Deloitte colleagues, so glad you're here. I want to acknowledge also and thank from the bottom of my heart my court administrator, Karen. Where are you, Karen? Is she even in here? Oh, there she is, Karen. Stand up. And my staff attorney, Erica Aker, and my clerk, Brandy Shannon. Where are you, Brandy? No, she's not here. Okay. But they have done enormous amount of work to make this day possible, and they've had great assistance from the administrative staff of both the Court of Appeals and the Supreme Court, and I thank you all very much. And thank you for being so patient with a newbie judge. I appreciate your help so much. As Bill said, you sometimes can trace a career to one event. And that event was from this man right here. He had probably no idea he was changing somebody's career by hiring her, but he hired me and he changed my entire life. I was your 5th clerk in 1990. You'd been on the bench since '86, halfway through the year, and I thought you'd been, it seemed like forever on the bench. And you really didn't know it, but from that moment, I was forever smitten with state taxation. It began a 20-plus year love affair for me. And it has never diminished. I have passion for the area, and it's all because of you. You taught me patience and hard work and humor. I'm not as good at the delivery as you are, but you did teach me humor. In fact, you taught me right away that there are only 2 types of people who complain about taxes: men and women. And working for you transformed me from a bookish English major into a tax geek. I don't know if that was a step up or a lateral move, but I have in this room today some of the finest other tax geeks that exist in any state ever, and I'm so glad to be your colleagues. You, sir, however, are the tax court. I know that. 24 years, you are the tax court, and you've left a legacy that this state is so proud of, and that is noticed around the country in other states that wish they had a tax court and a tax court judge of your caliber. And if that weren't enough to give to this state, you gave your firstborn son as the Solicitor General. Tom, thanks for being here. Judge, you set the bar so, so high, but I promise to at least do my best every day to meet your challenge. And believe me, I know you're watching me. Every day I come into work, that life-size cardboard cutout of you is in a different... You are my mentor and my friend and my hero. And I can't express to you with words how much I honor you and how meaningful it is to me to be following you. Thank you so much. Let's give Judge Fisher. Governor Daniels, you also transformed my life, although I haven't had as long to be in my role that you chose me for. Thank you for picking me. I'm reminded of that sign if you drive north on I-69, right near Anderson, where the casino, I think is a casino there, and there's a horse on it, and it says, "Pick me, pick me." I kind of felt like that. And there are several other people who were applicants as well as I, and we had such a wonderful group of people, and I was the lucky one, but you were all very qualified people, and thank you for making it it wasn't really a competition, was it? It was just a good choice, I think, a good way to choose, I guess. You are a Hoosier role model, Governor. You brought the practicality of a businessman, among other things, to state government, and Indiana is better for it. I'm so proud to be a Hoosier in my adopted state, and I've lived here since I was 16. My children, my 2 wonderful daughters, Amy and Katie, were raised here. They went to college here. In fact, the three of us girls, between us, have 6 higher degree educations from Indiana institutions. So we are very, very proud to be from this state. And last spring and summer, one of my dearest friends had a disease and died. And it was a very low time for all of us. 4 days after she did, Judge Fisher let me know that he was retiring. So I think she's been up there auguring for me with somebody. And I'm sure she had something to do with this. And her family is here. Thank you for being here, Terry and Brooke's not here, but Tara. And I know that Jennifer's with us. And our other best friend, Kim, you're here somewhere with your daughters, Allie and Sarah. Thanks for being here. I'm also proud, Governor, to join other women, lawyers who are members of the judiciary, the import of which is best expressed by one of my heroes, the first woman on the U.S. Supreme Court, Sandra Day O'Connor, who ascended to that position in 1981 and said, and I agree with it, I think the important thing about my appointment is not that I will decide cases as a woman, but that I am a woman who will get to decide cases. Thank you, Governor. I am so proud that I will always be known as your choice. It's just wonderful. Chief Justice Shepard, since I began my career, well, you've been my boss. It seems more immediate now somehow. Thanks to you, the Judicial Nominating Commission, it was an experience that was fairly scary, but you were so professional, and I'll tell you, the members of the Judicial Nominating Commission were so prepared. They even had yellow highlights on my application. They had read them, and they asked penetrating questions. I'm just glad I came out on top. But also, thank you to your fellow justices. You've made me feel so welcome. I'm so glad to be your comrades now. I want to brag a little, though. I didn't have very many cases that I worked on go up to Supreme Court. A few that I helped Judge Fisher with that went up, and I think only one when I was out in practice. But I had a perfect record. I want to know that you know that I am a practical person, and I understand that record is soon going to probably not exist anymore. Isn't that right, Judge Fisher?
That's right. You calluses, you'll develop calluses.
So thank you so much. Chief Judge Robb, thank you for being here today. I'm so happy to have you up here with me. You've been so welcoming from day one, and along with your fellow judges of the Court of Appeals. And my friend John Baker, who was very helpful to me as well, gave me advice, and I've heard him say many times that on the Court of Appeals, he's got the great pleasure of working with 14 law partners every day. Judge Baker, I can do the math. I'm a solo practice. However, I'm hoping you'll let me be of counsel every once in a while when I need advice. And thank you all for being so supportive of me. I can't let this moment pass without noticing another significance that's already been hinted at here today or even spoken, and that is that I'm the first woman judge to take the Indiana Tax Court, and that puts me in a group of folks of Indiana's first women who have been first in the appellate level courts and the Supreme Court, and I want to pay homage to them today. I'm going to focus on those three ladies. They are such accomplished first women, and I owe them a debt of gratitude, and they are Sue Shields, Myra Selby, and Margret Robb. In 1978, and she has, all these women have other accomplishments. I'm going to focus on the courts, on this court. Judge Shields became the first judge for the Court of Appeals in 1978. That was before Sandra Day O'Connor went on to the bench of the U.S. Supreme Court in 1981. Then it was in 1995 that Myra Selby was appointed to the Indiana Supreme Court, and our Chief Justice commented at the time that she was blasting through the glass ceiling, and she surely did, and I'm hoping a few more shards are coming off of that as I accept my appointment. Last but certainly not least, on October 28th of last year, Maggie Robb became the first Chief Judge of the Court of Appeals, first female Chief Judge of the Court of Appeals. Remarking on her appointment and accomplishment, she said, "I'm mindful that this is significant to a lot of people. By me being the first, that now means that there can be a second and a third, until eventually no one notices and talks about it because it's so common. That's the way it should be." I fully agree with you. Thank you for paving the way, all of you wonderful ladies, and I'm so proud to be part of you. I have two sets of former colleagues I want to say thanks to. First, Herkel, you know who you are, Paul, Render, Killian, Heath, and Lyman, affectionately known as Herkel by the insiders. I couldn't have joined a better law firm. The founder, Bill Hall, now deceased, had an unfailing moral compass that was the inspiration and building block for that firm. He worked almost up until the day he died. He came to work every day in his mid-90s. What a man. He inspired all of us. When I was hired, I was given quick responsibility, and it served me well. I left only to follow my passion, but I couldn't even have gone there without the legal boot camp that I got at Hall Render. An enormous amount of opportunity they gave me. Anybody from Hall Render here, will you stand up and let's give everybody a hand? Thank you all for being here, and thank you for your great legal education of me. Deloitte, Bill was correct. What a send-off you all gave me. I will never forget it. And I want to introduce all of you, but would everybody from Deloitte stand up? I think there are 50 people here approximately. And everybody sit down except for my team. Remain standing. Nathan, Stephen, Paula. Come on up, Clint. Jim, I know you're over there somewhere. There you are. You guys, I tell you, you taught me so well. I'm going to give you a hand. You made me smarter, quicker. You're such a large part of why I'm here. I'm so proud of you. I learn so much every day from you, and I'm depending on you to keep me real. Thank you for being here. And all of my Deloitte family, thank you. I would not be here without you. I've saved, just like Cale Bradford before me, I've saved my family, most important to me, but I've saved them to last because I didn't want to get emotional early on. You may have noticed, I don't know, is my nameplate up there? Yeah. Well, it has a B period, but most of my nameplates are supposed to have blood spelled out because that's the name I was born with. You might imagine growing up with the name of Blood that it might have been a difficult life in school. And there are a couple other people here who had the same problem, but I have kept and will spell out in the name Blood because it is in honor of my parents, both deceased now. I know that Ruth and Howard are somewhere watching today. I've kept my name Wentworth because I honor my children with that name, Amy and Katie. And I want to introduce you first, though, to those, my siblings, who have lived through the Blood name. Now, I'll let it be to your imagination to understand and think of what people might have called us. But I will just tell you that my favorite nickname was Clot. I'm sure that my brother and sister had other names they could share with you. But I'm the oldest, and I have 3 siblings. And my brother Cap, stand up Cap, Howard, but we call him Cap, Cap is a small man, you can see. We grow him big in our family. And he is, thank you so much for being here. It is so special to have you. He's the smart one in the family, actually. I didn't get smart till he turned, I think he turned, 15. I came home from college, and I had beaten him up all his life. I came home from school at 15, and he chased me all around the yard and got a hose in my mouth. And that was the last time I ever beat him up. Lisa, my baby sister Lisa, stand up, and her husband Dan Poole, and my beautiful nieces, stand up, girls. Thank you so much, girls, for saying the Pledge of Allegiance. You did a great job. Lisa is the baby of the family, and so thank you for being here. We used to call her Lily Bug. I'm telling all family secrets. Thanks for being here. In between Cap and Lisa is my sister Amy, who couldn't be here, and her family, Tim Perry and Graham Edwards, who are not here today because they couldn't get away from work and they live in Florida. But thank you, family, for being supportive. Now, that's not the last of the Bloods here, because we have our cousin here, our wonderful cousin, Chip. Stand up. Yes, stand up. Chip, or Charlie Davis. He is my cousin, first cousin once removed, and his father is my cousin. He is here representing that side of the family, and we allow him to be an honorary Blood since his grandmother and my dad were siblings. Chip went to law school at Bloomington a few years after I graduated, and his sister joined him there, and we had a great time when you were here, and he was a deputy prosecutor here in Indianapolis for many years until he went to the lower key deputy prosecutor role in Detroit. Now, my children. Amy is not able to be here. She's my older daughter. She's married to Joaquin Bueno, and I have the most beautiful 3-year-old grandson, Santiago. They are all in Spain. That's why they could not be here. My son-in-law is researching and writing his dissertation there from Duke, and I miss them. And I say hello because I think they're taping this to my grandson. This is your Gramby from Skype. And I'm so proud of you, Amy. And I know the first thing when I woke up this morning, I had an email from my daughter, Amy, wishing me luck today. Katie, wow, you do well in public speaking. She told me she'd do a good job, and she was great. I'm so proud of you, honey. When she was 6 years old, she told me she wanted to be a marine biologist. And then she discovered that marine biology meant you sat in a lab all day and did research. You didn't get to be with the animals. So now she's a vet. She's our personal Dr. Doolittle. She lives downtown. She was walking her dog one night and saw something stirring in the grass and picked it up, and it had a little infestation around it. She took it home. She calls me up and said, I have a mouse rat that I picked up from the grass walking home downtown. I said, you have a mouse rat? And I had infestation in it. And she took it home, made it well, and of course it became a rat, a brown rat, from Indianapolis streets. So you can see what kind of dedication she has to her job. And honey, I'm so proud of you. Thank you for being part of this day, and thank you. You've been a wonderful daughter, and I love you. Last but certainly not least, Phil. Can you imagine the luck? I've had 2 roughly simultaneous 20-year-plus love affairs. One with state taxation, and the other with Bill Barrett. I would never be the person I am today without you, Bill. You're my friend, my confidant, my tutor, my consigliere when I need one, my critic, my champion, my competitor, but also, most of all, my love. As Jack Nicholson said in As Good as It Gets, You make me want to be a better person. Thank you. And thank you also for sharing your family with me. Some of your family was unable to attend today. Your brother Ed is in Texas, and your sister Liz and her family, Tim Farrell, and our niece Meredith were unable to be here. Meredith sent me a text message, though. And, of course, here today, part of your family, and would you stand? Scott Barrett, stand up, Scott. And Ruth Barrett, my angel, stand up, Ruthie. And, of course, thank you so much for being here. They help me out all the time, and Ruthie is an angel. And I have to say a special hello and thank you for being here to Bill's mom, Dr. Ruth Mendenhall Barrett. She's truly a Hoosier legend herself. She grew up in Goshen to 2 school teachers, both of them school teachers. And she went to Northwestern Medical School. Was it 1947 when you graduated? 48. Year I was born. She graduated from medical school, one of 3 women, and she has been a force of nature ever since. She was a pioneering lady in professional lives, and I recommend that you speak with her. She's a fascinating woman. I have great affection for you, and I'm so glad you're in my life. Thank you for being here. It makes it so special. Bill, thank you for letting me share your family with you. Thank you for your love and support, and thank you for such a wonderful presentation. In closing, I promise to serve the people of Indiana with enthusiasm, humility, and hard work, absent bias and prejudice, and I promise to follow the laws of our state, our Constitution, and the U.S. Constitution. I hope to honor all of you that have faith in me, and as I was suggested by Judge Fisher to say, and now I have a little bit of work to do. Judge Fisher.
Thank you, Judge. I do have one presentation I'd like to make, Judge Wentworth, from me. Now, this is a precedent, I suppose, but I don't recall that any of the Justice David or any other judges getting anything from the Chief Judge, so it's not a precedent that would break the bank if there's many, but if you want one judge, please.
I'm sort of terrified about this after you gave me a dismembered leg last night.
No, this is for real. Totally inconsistent with my personality, but...
Oh, wow. I think I know what's in here. It's a lovely box. I have to get these on to read it. Presented to the Honorable Martha B. Wentworth, Judge, Indiana Tax Court, March 8th, 2011, by Thomas G. Fisher, Senior Judge. And inside is my first gavel.
Oh, of course.
Thank you very much, and thank you very much for your kind words, Judge Wentworth. As I said in December at the retirement ceremony, I couldn't have done anything in the tax court without the hard work of the staff and the law clerks that I had, and you, of course, were very significant and played a major part. I don't think I got reversed back in those days either.
Given was on the court.
I'll now call upon Pastor Aaron Story to give the benediction. Pastor Story.
If you desire, I just invite you to bow your heads as I do a prayer of benediction and close our time together. Almighty God, we give you praise for all the benefits that we receive from your hand. We acknowledge you today for life and the right that we have to pursue and enjoy it. We acknowledge you today for your provisions that we are supplied regularly for us and that we so often take for granted. We acknowledge you today for companionship that we can have with you and with our fellow man so that we are not alone. We acknowledge you today for our country and the freedoms that we enjoy, knowing that great costs have been paid to maintain them. We acknowledge you today for the beauty of this state of Indiana and for the leaders whom you have ordained to lead. For all these blessings, we give you praise. We now invite you, Almighty God, to give wisdom, counsel, understanding, and strength to all the leadership of this great state. We pray for the judges whom serve and lead our state. May they have the courage to choose what is right and best for the citizenry of Indiana. May they have the conviction to stand firm in what is just. May they have the integrity and boldness to not waver in the face of criticism and opposition. We pray especially for Judge Martha during this time. Enlighten her mind on dark issues, clarify her thinking on clouded and unclear points, encourage her, and guide her. Almighty God, we recognize today our need of your help. Humbly, I ask you to walk with her through her days ahead and make her adequate to confront the responsibilities ahead. We give you thanks for your strength, wisdom, counsel, and help in advance. In your name we pray. Amen.
Thank you, Pastor Story. That essentially concludes the proceedings here. There is a reception out in the atrium to which all of you are invited, and I encourage you to stay and mingle and greet Judge Wentworth. There will be no official receiving line, but she will be there and would love to greet each of you, I'm sure. The doors in the rear of the courtroom will be open so that you may exit through those doors into the library if the door at the main door here is congested. Thank you all for coming. It's been a grand day, and I know that the grand days are ahead, better days are ahead for the Indiana Tax Court. Thank you all.
All rise. This court is adjourned.